Okay, guys, let's start the part two. Yes, in the part two, we will see the other types of MDB. That is Asian Development Bank and African Development Bank. Right, World Bank Group, their work quite successful. After the Second World War, World Bank, they have done many jobs for the reconstruction of world economy and the assisting the developing countries. International community, they realized that, wow, it's good. And then some kind of regional level, the communities wants to make those kind of MDBs in their regions. For example, Asian area, many developing countries, for example, Korea, in those days, they wanted to make the economic improvement as the developing level. Their economy wanted to make to host the investment. However, international investors they were hesitated to invest their money for those kind of developing countries because their economy was unsettled. Therefore, World Bank models is needed in the region. Therefore, Asian area and the African areas, they established the MDBs for the developing countries in their area. Think about that. Asian countries and African countries, almost every countries are in the regions are developing level. Yeah, of course, except the some exceptions such as Japan those days. In Asian area, almost everyone is in the categories of developing countries. Therefore, they needed this bank. So in part two, we will see the Asian Development Bank model and African Development Bank as a regional MDBs. Okay? Let's start it from the Asian Development Bank. ADB was established for the development of economy in Asian developing countries. Okay? It was established in 1966. Yeah, 1966. It happened in the English World Cup. Yeah, the England, they got the World Cup the first time. Until then, since then, they never reached the final destination. But anyway, 1966, it was the historical moment. Asian Development Bank was established in this year to facilitate economic development of Asian countries by the members of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. United Nations, they led the establishment of the MDB in Asian area. From 31 members as the founding members, nowadays 67 members more. Therefore, the memberships can be fluctuated. Anyway, nowadays, many Asian countries are playing in the stage of Asian Development Bank. The model is, absolutely World Bank. Their work is quite similar to the World Bank groups. And then the structure is very similar to the World Bank groups. Yes, but the Asian Development Bank, they are majorly, their fund was made from Japan and United States. So, Asian Development Bank, in practice, United States or Japan, they controlled, or made huge influence to their these bank from Japan and United States. Of course, some countries they complained about these things, and sometimes they want to make the another types of Asian Development Bank. But anyway, Asian Development Bank, it was the regional MDB following the model of World Bank. And it was established in the 1966 for the development of Asian developing countries. Okay? Their activities, it's like that. Sectors to eradicate poverty of Asian countries. So they help many things in the area of agriculture, education, energy, finance, health, ICT, industry and trade, and public sector management, and social protections, transport, and water. What to do? Capacity development, climate change, environmental sustainability, gender and development, governance, poverty reductions, and private sector development, regional cooperation and integration, social development, urban development. So major works are related to the development issues. Yes, economic development is crucial thing, but it's not just one thing. Social development or humanities development and many other issues, related issues, are emerging issues. Not just economic development, but also other things. Sustainability, we can use this word for the further works of Asian Development Bank these days. Okay? Financing operations. Basically, Asian Development Bank, the fund came from developed countries such as United States and Japan. And these funds can be used for the Asian developing countries, the public sector financing, to help the government in the Asian developing countries. And then it can be used for the developing countries development project in the area. But it's not just one thing. The finance, the fund can be used for the private sector as well. They can help the public sector, such as government. But in the developing countries, there is only one, not only the public sector, not government, but also private sector as well, such as companies. So, the Asian Development Banks, they can also help the private sector, the companies as well. If stimuli the private sector, I mean the companies, then the companies in the developing countries, they can do work more energetic ways. Then they can improve their economies. So not just for the public sector, but also private sector as well, right? They have also a special fund, many kinds of special fund for a specific object and target, such as Afghanistan Infrastructure Trust Fund or Japan Special Fund. This fund was made for the special area or special purpose. Yeah. So, yeah, the fund can be used for the public sector and private sector. Sometimes they have special fund for special reason, special target. Let's see the agreement for the Asian Development Bank. This law, main function of this law is quite similar to the IBRD agreement or IDA agreement. So we can assume that, yes, the main structure is quite similar to these agreements, right? Let's see the agreement establishing the Asian Development Bank. Okay, let's see the structure. Chapter 1, they have 3 articles: purpose, functions, membership. Yes, now you may think that, main purpose, main functions, membership, the provisions of these articles are, we can assume the mainstream of the content. Okay, you are right. Yeah. Capital, Chapter 2, Article 4, authorized capital. Article 5, subscription of shares. Article 6, payment of subscriptions. Article 7, ordinary capital resources. Okay? Let's see the Article 1. Let's focus on the yellow underlined words. The purpose of the ADB shall be to foster economic growth and cooperation in the region of Asia in the Far East, and to contribute to acceleration of the process of economic development of developing countries in this area, collectively or individually. And then they mentioned that wherever used in this agreement, the terms region of Asia and the Far East and the region shall comprise the territories of the Asian area, right? What does it mean, the Asia and Far East? Yeah. Normally, Asia means Southeast Asia and India, Sri Lanka, and this area. And furthermore, Far East. Far East. What does it mean, the Far East? Yeah. Japan, Korea, China, they are Far East Asian countries. Okay? So, the terms, they made the definition of the terms Asia and Far East. The terms of reference of the United Nations Economic Commission for Asia and Far East. So, the meaning of the terms are same in the terms in the United Nations. Okay? Yeah. Article 2, their function is to fulfill the purpose. What they do, to promote investment in the Asian and Far East area. Public sector and private sector all together. To utilize the resources in the disposal, at its disposal for the financing development of the developing countries in the Asian area. To meet requests from members in the region to assist them in the coordination of the development policies and plans. And then furthermore, they also provide more things to provide technical assistance for the preparation, financing, and execution of development projects and programs. So they will help the development project in the Asian and Far East area. But not just for the funding, but also technical assistance as well. To cooperate in such manner as the bank may deem appropriate within the terms of this agreement with the United Nations. So with the United Nations, they will work together with many participants. Yeah. And then, its organs and the subsidiary bodies, including, in particular, Economic Commission for Asia and Far East, and with public international organizations. Yeah, there is many international organizations, such as United Nations body, and other international institutions, as well as national entities, whether public or private sector. So, they will work together with many international organizations and government of each country, and furthermore, they will work together with private sector as well, such as companies, if they want. All right? Next, to undertake such other activities and provide such other services as may advance its purpose. Yeah. So, mainly, Asian Development Bank, they will do works for the development of Asian and Far East countries. They will do development project and the other related jobs. For that purpose, they can do co-work with many international organizations and national government and private companies and private sectors, individuals as well, if they decide it is needed. Okay? Right. Let's see the chapter 3, operations. Now, you have studied agreement on IDA, agreement on IBRD. So, in this, now you can see the mainstream of these chapters. Very similar. Operations, yeah. How can do their work? Use of resources, ordinary special operations, separation operations, recipient method operations, limitation on the ordinary operations, something. So, it is works of Asian Development Bank. Chapter 4, borrowing and other miscellaneous powers and currencies. Chapter 5, right? And when you see these provisions, you can imagine what happens in the Asian Development Bank. Okay, next chapter, organization and management. Yes, this structure is very similar to the IBRD or IDA. They have board of governors, board of the staff, president, and the voting systems, etc. So these articles, they provided the regulation of the powers and the structures. Okay? Yeah, board of governors, it is the highest policy-making body of the bank, like IBRD or IDA. Board of directors, among the 12 members of board of governors, they will do their jobs. It is much more executive bodies for the Asian Development Bank. President, it is representatives of these international organizations. the chairperson of board of governors, board of directors, yeah, and the managers of Asian Development Bank is elected by the board of governors. But please remember that who will be major investors? Japan and United States. So normally, Japan or United States may make influence to make president of the Asian Development Bank. I don't want to say that it is the justifiable, but it is reality. Okay, so many regarding this point, many members may make the complaints on that. But you know, capitalism, yeah. Who provide big money? They will lead the opinions. Yeah. Let's move on to the another chapters. Withdrawal, suspension of members, and the temporary suspension and termination of operations of the bank. This is the regarding the membership, especially withdrawal or suspension. Yes, we have already know that these provisions in the agreement on the IDA and IBRD, we have seen these agreements, these provisions. So Article 41, for example, in this agreement, they provide how to withdraw the membership from Asian Development Bank. Let's see the another chapter. Status, immunities, exemptions, and privileges. You may say that, these chapters are very similar to the some chapters in the agreement on IDA or IBRD. Yes, you're right. The main contents are very similar to these, the agreement chapters. So, they provided the legal status of ADB. And then they provided a lot of the immunities and privileges of the Asian Development Bank or staff of the bank, yeah, for their work. And yeah, I have to say that their status is quite similar to the diplomatic members of the countries. So they can enjoy a lot of immunities or privileges from the government, right, in each country. So yeah, we have checked the some agreement on the MDB. Then we can feel that the agreement have the similar point for the structures, for the management, yeah, and the status, yeah, yes, it is, yeah, because their jobs, their works are similar. They are commonly multinational development bank. Yeah, even though they have their different of characters for their regions and their functions, but they have their many common points. So agreement, the chapters and provisions are, yeah, in many ways very similar. Immunity and privileges are, yeah, very similar to the IDA or IBRD. Judicial proceedings and then asset, those kind of things cannot be controlled by the government of certain member countries. They have the immunities from the power of the government of the certain countries. They also have the privileges for the communication, and then also in exemptions from taxation, yeah, such as IDA or IBRD. And then the person, the staff, can also enjoy the privileges or the immunities, such as diplomatic person, like ambassador. Yeah, they are good. Yeah, many kind of immunities and privileges. Let's see the another chapters, amendment and the final provisions. Yeah, the main contents are very similar to the agreement on the IDA and IBRD. Yeah, amendment and the final provisions as well. Let's move on to the another types of regional MDB. The African Development Bank abbreviation is AFDB. F is not capital. Okay, remember that. African Development Bank, yeah, it was established in 1964. Do you remember that when the Asian Development Bank was established? Yes, 1966. So in 1960s, international communities realized that some regions needed special multinational development bank. So they pushed the Asian area and African area to make MDBs for their region. So the African Development Bank in the, was founded in 1964. African Development Bank, it is like a bank groups, like, yes, yeah, World Bank groups. So African Development Bank, it is the pivot and the related the institution. African Development Fund and Nigeria Trust Fund, those kind of bodies are worked together under the umbrella of AFDB groups. The works are very similar to the Asian Development Bank and IDA and IBRD. But the thing is that their major works are happened in the African region. Okay? Right. Let's see the four principal functions of the bank. Loans and equity investment, technical assistance, investment of public and private money, coordinating development policies and plans of the developing countries in African area. Yeah. So their major function is quite similar to the ADB or IBRD or IDA, but their major target is African countries. Let's see the fund. Yeah, African Development Fund was funded in the African countries. Yes, but they made special money, ADF, African Development Fund, in 1972. Their major work is development finance on the concessional terms to the low-income LMC. Yeah, and then their major role is quite focused on the LMC, the countries. Yes, and then they made another special fund, Nigeria Trust Fund, NTF. Yeah, it was made in 1976 by the Nigerian government. Nigeria, it is the big country in the African continent. So they believe that this country is the center of Africa. Pride. Yes, it is. So Nigeria, the government, made their special fund to help other neighbor countries in African area. AFDB, they manage this special fund, yeah, under the name of Nigeria Trust Fund to help the other African countries. It is the special fund. Yes, let's see the agreement for the African Development Bank. Let's see the agreement establishing the African Development Fund. They have the 60 articles. Yeah. The African Development Fund is special. I mean, the fund for the developing the AFDB. So these articles only for the this fund. Let's see the structure. Chapter 1 is definition. Chapter 2 is purpose and participation. And another chapter is resources, currencies, operations, and organization and management. Yeah, the mainstream is very similar to the former international law of MDBs. Yeah, but it is only for the fund. Another chapters: withdrawal, suspension of participation, and status, immunities, amendment, interpretation, and final provisions. So the titles of the chapters are, the order is also very similar to the former laws of MDBs. Yeah. So I don't want to talk about the details of this law again. Yeah, you can understand that. Oh yeah, mainstream is very similar to the former agreement of the MDBs. Okay, that should be enough. All right, in this part 2, we have checked the Asian Development Bank and then African Development Bank, and we have seen the related agreement, related international law. So let's wrap up the MDB issues. Yeah, MDB, it is another hand of the development project in the international societies. Yes, normally developed countries, they will do many ODA works. But in the international communities, international organizations such as United Nations, they can do. Yes, and they have, international societies also have very special international organizations. Yeah, their status is bank, international banks, and we can call that banks as MDB, multinational development banks. And these banks are commonly established for their ODA works. They use their public fund, yeah, and their major functions are very ODA-related issues. Okay, this is the end of part 2 of today's lecture. Thank you very much, and see you next lecture.